Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us this afternoon or this morning or this evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. We're really excited to have you all here today for this session on flourishing fundraising and how you can really make the most of your online giving this spring. So, a quick couple of housekeeping items before we really get started. One, this presentation is being recorded and you'll receive a link to the recording in your inbox following the presentation. So you can use that to come back to it, to share it with colleagues who you think might find this presentation helpful, or to just keep it in the back of your inbox if you want to come back to it at a later date. And then you'll also see that chat bar on the right side of your screen. So feel free to use that throughout the presentation to share thoughts, comments, questions, but we'd actually love if you would go ahead and use it now to introduce yourself, maybe share your name, where you're tuning in from, your organization. I'm Grace. I'm on the Double the Donation team, and I'm actually in Atlanta, and it is a beautiful spring sunny day in Atlanta. So that is really reflected in my yellow sweater representing the sunshine. Lorenzo, how's the weather where you are?
Yeah, so I'm in upstate New York. If any of you are aware of Utica, famous for chicken riggies, tomato pie, right? All things really good Italian food. It is actually beautiful here today. I think it was at 50-ish, which for me is really good, really good this time of year, right before we started this webinar. So yeah, weather's great. And just to introduce myself, my name is Lorenzo Sibilia, and I will be running things from the Give Effect end for today's webinar. So thank you for having me here, Grace, and thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, Lorenzo, I'll go ahead and take us into our more formal introductions just to kind of set the stage for everyone who may not be familiar with myself or Lorenzo here. My name is Grace. I'm on the partnerships team here at Double the Donation, and I'm really excited to be joined by Lorenzo today. As he mentioned, he's with the Give Effect team. Was there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Really excited to be with our potential leads, with everyone interested here today, just to review spring fundraising best practices. So really excited to get started here.
Awesome. Thanks again. Thank you for being here. Excited to kind of share some insights on online giving in the spring. And so to really just set the stage on why we're bringing you this presentation and why we're coming together, Double the Donation and Give Effect have a partnership, which essentially means our two companies work together to provide automated solutions that help you as fundraisers streamline your efforts and hopefully see greater success with your mission. And so we're really excited to partner with Give Effect to offer our integration, to be able to bring matching gift solutions to their clients and to bring you presentations like this one. So with that kind of out of the way, I want to go ahead and look at our agenda for today's presentation. So as you may or may not know, spring is actually one of the best opportunities for fundraising beyond year end, because people are more likely to kind of come out of their winter hibernation. They're excited to connect and engage with others, especially if that means working or collaborating with their favorite causes. And the warm weather can also encourage outdoor activities and events, which is really valuable for community engagement and likely your fundraising outcomes. I'm a testament to that. Anything above 70 degrees is more likely to get me out of the house. So with that in mind, we'll kind of be focusing on three topics here: building effective online campaigns, understanding your online giving analytics, and then growing your spring impact with matching gifts. And so with that, I'm going to kick it over to Lorenzo to kick us off. We'll have some time for questions at the end. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to send them in the chat throughout, and we'll try to come back to those at the end. But without further ado, Lorenzo, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you a ton, Grace. Yeah, so building effective online campaigns, really the starting point here, right? Building that, for lack of a better term, that vehicle that allows your folks, your supporters, to interact directly with your organization, make gifts, purchase products, merchandise, right? Just about the sky's the limit, right, when it comes to these. So intro to campaigns, right? What is an online campaign? An online campaign essentially is just a web page added to your organization's website, and that's dedicated to a specific fundraiser, right? So typically, there's a lot of different types of online campaigns, right? And this is by no means an exhaustive list. But campaigns can be used as a vehicle to sell ticket sales, to host peer-to-peer fundraisers or team fundraisers. Auctions, right, can also be hosted using a campaign. Third-party fundraisers, allowing your supporters to create that fundraiser on your behalf, right? Maybe in lieu of gifts, in lieu of, in lieu of gifts, right? Maybe my birthday's coming up. I want my friends and family to contribute to your organization. That would be a third-party campaign. And then, of course, any virtual fundraiser could also be, or also exist as a online campaign, right? Your galas, or specifically in the time of the pandemic, right? Your virtual galas, any virtual events you have. Maybe you have a Zoom telethon that you want to have exist as a campaign page. So ultimately, campaigns just represent that online presence in which your initiative is looking to reach some type of goal.
Question for you there, Lorenzo. If we're thinking about a campaign, does a campaign need to be a fundraiser? Does a campaign need to be donation-centric or centered around generating funds for an organization?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Grace. So ultimately, right, when I'm conferring with my clients on when to create a campaign, I always recommend that they create a campaign whenever they have some type of goal that they're looking to reach through their initiative. Typically, right, most typically, especially in the context of spring fundraising, that does tend to be a fundraiser. But I've also seen it be the case where folks want to create that campaign to host a volunteer opportunity, maybe a very, very large volunteer opportunity. Or maybe they want to create a campaign to track attendance for a workshop or a class that they continuously host. So by no stretch of the imagination are campaigns limited to fundraising, especially in those other facets. So what makes an online campaign effective? Ultimately, right, an effective campaign, regardless of the goal, right, looking at fundraising or tracking attendance or volunteer management, right, an effective online campaign is going to share the information that you're looking to convey with your donors or with your supporters, right? Again, not just looking solely in the context of fundraising. Of course, your online campaigns are also going to encourage actions such as purchasing tickets, donating, right? Very common action, or even, again, in the context of volunteer or those campaigns that track attendance or, to track registrations. They could even be used to encourage registration, right? Volunteer signups, volunteer application completion, right? Those types of actions as well. And then ultimately, right, they make contributing very easy. They streamline your supporters' ability to make contributions or to complete actions through your campaign page. So while they are also dedicated to sharing information, they are also a house, right, for folks to make and complete those corresponding actions. Anatomy of online campaigns, right? What are some of the most important elements to include within your online campaigns? So of course, an ideal campaign page, an ideal web page, right, created by your organization is going to include your organization's branding, right? If you're a Habitat for Humanity, you will want to include that Habitat branding on your campaign page, right? The same for Little Lighthouses, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Ronald McDonald Houses, right, et cetera, et cetera. Additionally, these campaigns will also have a little blurb dedicated to sharing their narrative, right? And ideally, the more compelling that narrative, the better, right? So of course, you could have a campaign, specifically a fundraising campaign dedicated to any type of initiative. The very low-level example I always use with my clients is Little Susie's Lemonade Stand, right? Maybe we're raising a bunch of money for Little Susie, helping her put together her summer lemonade stand, right? So of course we're going to be having this fundraiser in the spring. Of course, just sharing that narrative with our folks, right? Providing as many details as possible regarding the point of this campaign, the goal of this campaign, and then also just sharing relevant information regarding the campaign, the location, the deadline, the target goal, the fundraising goal, right? All of those let me phrase it this way, an effective campaign, right, will have all of those pieces included within its structure. And then campaigns also have, of course, the call to action, right? Motivating your supporters, your volunteers, your donors to actually take that action and complete those interactions directly through the campaign page. Okay.
Lorenzo, when you are making an online campaign, similar to this idea of if it has to be fundraising specific, do you think that calls to action should always also be fundraising specific? So should a call to action be click this donate button, or could it be sign up for our newsletter or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Calls to action, right? Even though we're looking specifically at a fundraising campaign right now, they of course don't have to relate specifically to fundraising and specifically to encouraging gifts, right? So we could absolutely, I think what you mentioned was a great example, Grace. Click here to donate, but if interested in joining our newsletter, click this link below. Or if interested in volunteering, right, go ahead, click our application link that's located below in the description. So even though, right, our campaign may be a fundraising campaign and it may have nothing to do with volunteer management or tracking attendance for a workshop, maybe we could absolutely, our volunteer manager reaches out, hey, I know you guys, Spring Bash is a huge fundraiser. We need some more applicants for the next quarter. Would you be able to link that volunteer application directly within that description? And we would absolutely be able to do that. So that's a fantastic question. And then just some best practices regarding Teams online campaigns. Customize the fields in your checkout flows, or a better way to put it, your action flows, right? As folks are completing whichever action through your campaign, customize the fields in order to collect that data relevant to your organization. Of course, first name, last name, email address, those are always going to be biggies, but maybe you also want to collect SMS, text message information, right? Mobile phone number information from your supporters. You absolutely can and should configure your checkout flow to also collect that information. And then just some other best practices. If you're selling tickets through your fundraising campaign, include in the description what that ticket comes with, right? Purchase of this ticket comes with free dinner. Or in purchasing this ticket, you actually are buying a bundle of 3, right? A bundle of 3 tickets. And then as far as donations go, right? Encourage your folks to make a recurring donation or a pledge, right? Instead of just having them give that one-time gift, maybe they never really think about it again, right? Prompt them to make that recurring gift, which if you're using the right software, right, you can prompt them to do automatically on a checkout by checkout basis. All right. And then one other item that I would absolutely classify as a best practice is donation matching, right? So you already have the donor on the hook. You have them interacting with your campaign, right? Of course, if your software, right, is really as all-encompassing as it should be, you would also have that ability to prompt them to gauge if their employer does gift matching, right? So of course we have a little checkout screenshot here. In addition to prompting this donor to make a one-time gift through our campaign, we're also prompting them to gauge if their employer offers any gift matching programs. So Grace, if there's anything, right, gift matching is all you. If there's anything you wanted to share here.
Absolutely. I think what it really boils down to when you're thinking about an effective campaign is making the most of your individual engagement opportunities with a given donor. And so with that in mind, that's why we recommend including a search field like this on your donation form. It's an easy, streamlined, optional way to inform your donors about matching gifts, pique their interest, and then collect that valuable employment information while still keeping them engaged during the giving process. And collecting this information actually sets you up well to capture as many matching gift opportunities as possible, which will inadvertently grow the impact of your spring fundraisers, and also can sometimes be a motivating factor for people to give when they know that their $25 gift is actually going to turn out to be $50 with the added element of donation matching. So I think, to your point, Lorenzo, great call out, great best practice to make sure that in these online giving campaigns that you put a lot of work into setting up, make sure that you're taking advantage of all the opportunities there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure. And I couldn't agree more, right? Folks are much more likely to give a little bit less if they know that that donation will actually equate to be more, right, with the help of employer gift matching. Absolutely. So, right, taking a more so umbrella view over types of fundraising campaigns, right, different types of fundraisers that folks are able to utilize, right, in order to increase your bottom line. So just some common items right here. We have our ticketed events. We have our peer-to-peer and our team fundraisers, and then we also have our auction campaigns, right? We have a nice little example of each of these right here, right? What's really amazing about campaigns, right, especially if you're using the right software, is that your ticketed events and your auctions and your peer-to-peer fundraisers, they don't have to live as separate events entirely. You can combine them into a single online campaign and use those corresponding functions accordingly, right? So very common example, we have a ticketed gala, right, that also has an auction component. We could just create one online campaign that not only sells tickets, but is also responsible for collecting bidder registrations, auction bids, etc., etc. Okay, so really briefly starting with ticketed events, very straightforward. Of course, some best practices for ticketed events: provide different ticket options and be super transparent as to what each of those ticket options include, right? So maybe our basic ticket, right, that only gets us entrance to the event, right? That only gets us event admission. But maybe our platinum ticket, right, comes with 3 extra free tickets in addition to our own. And then it also comes with a nice little gift basket and maybe free dinner, right, during the time of the event. So we could absolutely, one of the best practices is creating multiple ticket types, and then of course associating different benefits with each of those types. Of course, right, be as detailed as possible, right? So maybe folks that buy the silver ticket type, right, they wouldn't be able to buy steak, or they wouldn't be able to get steak for dinner. They'd only be limited to chicken or veggie options, right? But maybe with that platinum ticket type, they get steak, they could get filet mignon, they could get tartare, right? They could get whatever they want. So be as detailed as possible. Of course, also allowing sponsorship opportunities. If you're using the right software, right, your sponsors could also get free tickets just by virtue of purchasing their sponsorship, right? So that's something else to keep in mind. How do we want to equate ticket sales to our sponsorship sales? And then, of course, making this process as easy and as streamlined as possible is also going to be a biggie there. Okay. So moving into peer-to-peer fundraisers, right? So gone are the days of tracking peer-to-peer fundraisers using traditional paper, pen, right, notebook methods. With your organization's oversight, right, you could create a campaign, you could create a campaign, right, that hosts peer-to-peer fundraisers. And with your organization's oversight, right, your supporters will be able to create their personal fundraising pages, their own personal fundraising pages directly off of your online campaign. So once your team gets that online campaign set up, ready to go, it's kicking, it's moving, right? From there, your supporters just have to go to register. And then there's really nothing else that your team is going to be responsible for keeping tabs on, right? It's all automated if you are using, right, the right platforms. So what's really nice about peer-to-peer fundraisers is, of course, they allow for your supporters, your peer-to-peer fundraisers, to actually customize their pages, right? So they can include whichever images, whichever descriptions they want, whichever stories they want to include in narratives to really make their peer-to-peer fundraising pages compelling as possible. What I always like about these, right, if you're using the right software, is that you could really increase your fundraising footprint, right? So Grace is in Atlanta. I'm in upstate New York, right? If Grace created a peer-to-peer fundraising page and I gave to it, right, and maybe I shared it, my entire network here in upstate New York is going to now be privy to Grace's fundraiser, or Grace's peer-to-peer fundraising effort, right? So just by their very nature, they increase the fundraising footprint of your organization because you have folks essentially doing that free promo for you, right? And then, of course, that's one of the biggest benefits, right? Generating new donor leads, right, for your organization to nurture and steward. Again, less time for your staff. And then also something that's really cool is that you could add gamification here, right? Play off people's competitive natures. Say that whichever peer-to-peer fundraiser is doing the best, maybe they get a coupon to our favorite bar, as an example, right? Really rev these folks up and really get them to compete against one another. And then moving into auctions, the third online campaign type that we'll mention here. Auctions, whether you're accepting your bids virtually or whether you're accepting your bids traditionally through live in-person bidding, is what you'll hear me refer to it as. Go ahead and create that landing page, right, that campaign to host your auction so that it has that online space. Of course, what's really nice about these is that you are able to automate your auctions so that folks are automatically charged at the close of the auction, right, upon bidding conclusion. Of course, allowing your team, or I'm saying, right, not requiring your team to chase all of these auction bidders down towards the end of the night, right? So that's a really huge benefit of being able to host your auctions online. Again, I did mention that regardless of whether or not you're hosting a virtual auction or an in-person auction, go ahead and create that online landing page. The main reason for that is because you could still prompt your in-person bidders to register online, to pre-authorize their payment methods online, and then from there, if you opt to have them automatically be charged upon bidding conclusion, as soon as you click essentially the stop bidding button within your platform, bidding is automatically going to conclude, and that bidder is going to automatically be charged for that auction item in spite of them placing the bid directly in person. So that's a really, really, really neat component of being able to host even your in-person auctions online, is that you could automate all of these pieces, right? And actually, to jump ahead a little bit, these are some examples of what these auctions look like. So from one standalone campaign page, folks can either view auction items or they could register to bid directly from here. What's also nice, folks have the ability to donate, just as always, right? So you don't have to necessarily rely on auction bids to, fund and be responsible for the performance of your campaign. You could still accept general donations, okay? So moving into marketing, promoting and marketing, right, your campaign. So of course, increasing visibility as much as possible. Creating your campaign is great, right? But we do also want the ability to reach folks that maybe we haven't previously reached. So of course, reaching an audience as wide as possible will be huge here. Of course, you also want to engage your donors, right? Enhance their engagement from their end, enhance your stewardship practices, boosting your fundraising success, of course, right? While you're, looking at our Spring Bash campaign, also consider giving to some of our after-school program campaigns too, right? So not only promoting the main event at hand, but also keeping folks looped into the other, the other little programs that you have going on, right? And then lay the foundation for your long-term impact. Right, based on our Spring Bash in 2023, we were able to raise 50 grand. Right, we've only had the event running for half as long in 2024 compared to 2023, but so far we've already raised $35,000. Right, so just being able to know how you've increased and how your performance has increased through this campaign, of course, those all represent some of the different benefits of adequately promoting and marketing your campaign. Right. So, of course, promotion shouldn't only be limited to be, prior to your campaign, right? A very healthy promotion strategy is going to be ongoing both before, during, and after the actual campaign itself. So prior to the campaign, right, any of your promotions should absolutely define the objectives using compelling messaging, right? Little Susie's lemonade stand is great, but maybe I need to include some more information about Little Susie, right? She wants to go to summer camp. Her family just can't afford it. Maybe, we need to step up and, fill that gap there through our Spring Bash campaign, right? Designing visually appealing email templates, right? Ensuring that these are aesthetic as possible. That should be the case, right? Before, during, and after our campaign, right? So always ensuring that our aesthetics are present, ensuring that we're storytelling, and then also scheduling a distribution strategy, right? So that'll loop into this next piece, right? During our campaign, right? Ideally, our communication strategy would be identified prior to our campaign and prior to going live with our campaign. So personalized appeals, right? Personalizing your appeals as much as possible. If you have the right technology, you're leveraging the right platforms, you'll be able to personalize your communications regardless of how many folks are receiving any given communication, right? Using what's traditionally referred to as merge fields, right? So good marketing platforms will absolutely give you access to those merge fields. Ultimately, right, identifying which donors, which segments you want to communicate with during your campaign. Maybe your initial promotion is going to everyone, right? All of your contacts, but maybe you're going to send follow-up promotions based on specific segments, right? Maybe based on lifetime giving totals, maybe based on volunteer involvement, right? Whatever segments that make the most sense for your organization. And then, of course, right, just as far as tips go, include links, right? Don't be hesitant to include some links, include some checkout pages within your communications. And then, of course, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, being able to use those to help inform your communications rather than having them write it outright. Maybe have them, right, have the AI give you some ideas, bounce some ideas, go back and forth with the AI. And then as far as follow-up after the campaign, right, including, automating our emails so that folks are followed up with automatically, right, taking one of those extra manual steps off our team's plate. And then, of course, right, in the realm of gift matching, donation matching, being able to, as folks are donating through your campaign, right, segmenting who was interested in gift matching, so that from there, right, we can absolutely go ahead and follow up with those folks accordingly. So all of our gift matching folks, right, they're going to be in bucket A. Let's just send that communication directly to bucket A, and that's going to be completely focused on having their gift matched by their employer. Grace, anything that you would want to add on employer matching here?
Yeah, one thing I'll add, and just about follow-up emails in general, is the value that they can have after your campaign for those who either participated or did not participate. I think that's a great way to just re-engage people regardless of whether or not they were a participant in the campaign itself or the event or what have you. As it relates to matching gifts, especially, I think follow-ups are important for stewardship, for connection, and to actually increase the likelihood of them taking that next step, whether the next step is donating, securing the matching gift, what have you. And research at Double the Donation suggests that sending a matching gift email the first 24 hours after a donation actually results in a 53% open rate, which is almost 3 times higher than the industry average open rate. So personalized emails with direct calls to action can make it really easy for your donors and supporters to cut through some of that matching gift red tape. And with that, we've got a little bit left in our presentation today, but I just wanted to do a quick call out as we're coming up on the kind of preconceived end of our presentation. We've got just a few minutes here, but I want to make sure that we hear Lorenzo out and we wrap this up and do its due diligence. So if you're able to stay on with us for a few extra minutes, please do. But if you've got to hop off at that 30-minute mark, feel free. And this presentation is being recorded and you'll get it in your inbox. So Lorenzo, keep trucking on, but I just wanted to make that call out for those of us who might have to hop off a little bit early.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that, Grace. Brevity is something that I'm continuously improving on. But absolutely. So moving into just analytics, right? Looking at our analytics. Of course, every team is different. Every campaign is different. The analytics that are going to be most meaningful to you and your team are going to vary, right, on a team-by-team basis. So, of course, tracking the effectiveness not only of your campaign, but of your promotions, right? Which promotions were the most successful in segueing donors towards our campaign, right, and having them give towards our campaign. Of course, also viewing not just web traffic, but also the analytics for our emails, right, corresponding with our promotions. Which promotions were the most successful? Which promotions were opened at the highest rates, right? Those types of items are incredibly valuable in being able to determine and gauge the success of your campaign. And then, of course, being able to use those metrics to inform your decision making, understanding how powerful, how potent the actual event was. How did the performance vary, right, compared to the events that you've held in the past, your previous spring bashes, right? Did you earn more this year? Maybe you earned on par with what you were expecting, but not nearly as much, right? So ultimately, right, being able to use your metrics that you collected through the campaign management process, it's all going to be super valuable in crafting your follow-up strategies and your follow-up promotions, and of course, moving into building your event the next time around. Okay, so of course, data mapping, right? Just essentially the ability for your campaign to be automated, to track some of these different metrics and track some of these different segments in real time, right? So you could see here, right, as folks are donating through this campaign, we're very easily able to see, right, the fund, the account, the source, and even the donation group that each of these donations are going to be associated with upon being made, right? And again, that's all going to happen automatically. So again, these pieces are incredibly valuable for being able to eliminate your manual data entry pieces, also being able to upload across tech platforms, right? So having this information generated, automated, and tagged directly in the moment, incredibly useful in regard to, again, crafting your follow-ups. And then again, nurturing your relationships, right? Doing this all over again for the next campaign, right? Our next spring bash. An email recap of the event, right, is always going to be super powerful, super important in being able to steward your donors, sharing, again, the performance of the event, creating tailored emails depending on who gave what, right? Maybe the folks that gave between $1 and $100 to our campaign, we're not going to, of course they'll receive a thank you, but it's not going to be as wordy, right, as maybe the folks that receive or that gave between $100 and $500, right, through the campaign. And then, of course, tax receipting, right, making sure folks receive the receipts in a timely fashion. If you don't have automatic tax receipts activated, right, through your platform, which is absolutely something to consider. And nurturing your donors, right, continuing that nurture. That nourishment of your donors, adding new donors to your newsletters, being able to associate these folks and giving them the ability to join your newsletter groups, right? Those are all incredibly, incredibly important as we're getting ready to build our 2025 Spring Bash, right? Who, opened our emails from the last thank you for last year's Spring Bash, right? Those types of items are incredibly important to keep in mind. Okay. And as far as growing our impact with matching gifts, ultimately, right, as far as interacting with these donors, prompting them to give to our campaigns, a $25 gift is not nearly as cool as a $50 gift, right, given by multiple parties. So matching gifts, right, being able to prompt your donors with these gift matching initiatives are these opportunities, right, that are even available when folks may not even be recognizant, right, that they are. Incredible opportunity for you to continue building your revenue based on donations that you've already received, right? So
absolutely. Thanks, Lorenzo. I can kind of take it from here and talk a little bit about matching gifts. And like I said, I'll make this quick to make sure that everyone's able to get back to their day, jump back into whatever they had planned. But if you're watching this in the recording, glad to have you as well, and feel free to reach out with any follow-up questions. But matching gifts are a pretty widespread phenomenon. Corporations are giving nearly $2 to $3 billion every year to nonprofits through these programs, and nearly all corporations plan to maintain or heighten their giving programs in the coming years. So there's a lot of existing opportunity, and there's a lot more that we can continue to do with it. And so with 26 million individuals in the US alone eligible for these programs, there's a good chance that a number of your existing donors, supporters, email newsletter subscribers, so on and so forth, are eligible for these programs and can actually double the impact of their gift. And so, like I mentioned, the matching gift industry is widespread. It touches nearly every vertical, every industry in the corporate world, whether that's food and beverage, oil and gas, financial, retail, so on and so forth. And it's often thought that only expressly philanthropic companies have matching programs, but that's not the case. In reality, is pretty much everywhere. As the job market has evolved in the last few years, employee benefits have expanded to touch on each of these programs in each industry, and they've become more important. And so as a result, we've seen the matching gift industry expand and grow to meet the kind of evolving demands of the job market. And so with that, we see more and more employees eligible who are offering these programs through their employer. Despite that, we continue to see kind of this biggest barrier to matching gifts, being a lack of donor awareness. More than 78% of match eligible donors have never been made aware of the matching gift opportunity. And if they don't know about it, then they'll never take action. In the same way that if a donor doesn't know about your online campaign, then they're never going to participate in it. So it's a very similar phenomenon that we're seeing. And on top of that, 16% of donors who do know about their matching gift program aren't sure if they qualify or how to submit a request if they do qualify or what that can look like. And so the best way to fix this is by closing the awareness gap and bringing that into your existing communications. And that kind of lands with a lot of what Lorenzo has already shared about engaging an online campaign, reaching your donors in different avenues, whether that's in email or online or on your website. And so the best way to close the donor awareness gap is to actually put matching gifts at the forefront of some of your communications. And so we mentioned earlier that it's important to ask for employment information on your giving form, to incorporate that with an integration between platforms like GiveEffect and Double the Donation. But beyond that, you can utilize your existing communication channels to remind your donors about this opportunity and encourage them to submit a request. You can do this through your newsletter, through social media, through Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, if people are still using Threads, that kind of thing. And so you can remind your donors about this opportunity and encourage them to submit a request. You can include a dedicated Ways to Give page on your website for supporters to come back to after their donation, to be able to say, hey, here's a single source of truth about matching gifts, and really make it easy and cut through that red tape. And the last call out before we kind of wrap things up and answer any quick questions is that if you're sitting here and you're prepping for your April or May event or online campaign, wondering how you can bring in that final corporate sponsor, or wondering where you're going to find those volunteers for the day of, or how you're going to get a new peer-to-peer segment figured out for your upcoming campaign, see if you can revisit past matching gift successes, or if you can find any previous examples of matching gift information where you can leverage that relationship. The best types of partnerships are the ones that engage employees in a meaningful way, because that's what the corporation is looking for, and that's what's going to be what inclines them to say yes the most. So maybe a local business has an employee team that you can identify from John Doe's monthly donation that he's gotten matched every month for the past year. Or maybe you find a volunteer team because one of your largest donors is an employee at one of the local corporations. So all of that to say, I would just encourage you to revisit past opportunities and kind of use that to gauge future successes, because it's an often underutilized avenue that comes from corporate giving, corporate matching gifts, and things like that you can utilize there. And so I know that was a lot of information that we threw at you there. Thanks for bearing with us. Thanks for tuning in. I know we had one quick question that I want to make sure we address before we wrap things up here. But the question was, what is the difference between Double the Donation and GiveEffect? And that's great. I will quickly answer to the Double the Donation side of things. And then Lorenzo, I'll toss it back to you to share a little bit more about GiveEffect. But as I mentioned in the beginning, we are partners. So we actually offer a technical integration so that our platforms can work together. So Double the Donation is the leading matching gift marketing automation solution. And so what we do is provide software solutions that allow you to bring matching gifts to your donors and guide them through that process and keep track of them every step of the way. So that's really what Double the Donation does. And we do that with partnerships like the one that we have with GiveEffect that allows us to embed directly into that giving platform. So Lorenzo, anything you want to share about GiveEffect as a fundraising platform?
Yeah, I don't think I'd have enough time. But GiveEffect is essentially an all-in-one nonprofit management software. So we offer point of sale management, volunteer management, campaign and event management. general moves management, right? Of course, general contact database, CRM capabilities, mass email marketing, mass letter mail communications, grant tracking, major gift tracking, right? I could go on and on and on. But GiveEffect is essentially just an all-in-one nonprofit management software. Of course, a big piece of that is donor management. And again, that active POS system. Yeah, POS system. I forgot the last S. But in partnership with Double the Donation, right, through the integration that our two companies have, as your supporters are donating through GiveEffect, right, they could go ahead, identify their directly in the checkout page, right? They could go ahead and identify their employer in order to gauge, right, through Double the Donations mechanism, if that employer does any gift matching. So where GiveEffect is that all-in-one nonprofit management piece, right, we do partner with Double the Donation in order to essentially, right, prompt our clients' donors in order to match their gifts.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Lorenzo. And Sherry, I hope that was helpful. Hope that answered your question. If we've got any other questions, feel free to send them in the chat, or you'll see we've got some contact information on the screen. So feel free to click those links or use those emails to reach out to us. We'd be happy to engage in a more in-depth conversation if you have specific questions or want to get more in the weeds about what you're capable of doing. With all that being said, again, we want to thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Lorenzo, for joining us. And thank you for bearing with us as we went a little bit over our scheduled time, but we wanted to make sure that you didn't lose any of those valuable nuggets of information. So last kind of closing piece here, if you want to learn more about Double the Donation, feel free to click the links on this slide. We'd be happy to get you squared away. Or if you'd like to learn more about GiveEffect, let us know and we'll be able to connect you to the right people there as well. But thank you everyone again for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of your Thursday. And Lorenzo, thank you again.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a warm weekend. That is my hope for everyone. But thank you all so much.
Bye.